Bart with Dungeons Crawlers Radio. I am here with Jessica Day. Oh, I just lost your last name. See how good this
nice.
is?
I did it in the first one too.
That's Jessica Day George.
It's funny because I should have tagged that one. My uncle's George. I can tag things usually. I'm usually pretty good.
Look
it's all
at
about
that.
tagging, you know?
I have an old man name for a last name. Come on.
That works. I don't think my uncle would appreciate being called too old, but hey, he acts young all the time. So
there you go.
So we are here at Teen Author Boot Camp.
Yes.
Out here in Orem with UVU. First time you've been here?
Yes, it is.
And you were the keynote speaker.
I'm the morning keynote.
Yeah.
They have double keynotes here, which is pretty cool actually.
So you got to come. They begged you to come and be a keynote speaker. What was your thoughts?
Sure. Honestly, they asked me to do it a year ago. They start setting it up like right after the previous one. And so I'm a terrible absent-minded person, and she sent me an email. I said yes. And then about 6 months later, she sent me an email asking for like bio information and stuff. And I was kind of like, wait, who are you again? Like, so, and then I'm like, oh, that's right. I signed up to do that. And then they had the date for it and stuff like that. So I'm terribly absent-minded. I agree to do things all the time. And then when it's time for them, I'm like, what? So.
That's wonderful. So,
yeah, I'm not sure how wonderful it is.
Well, no, it keeps you free and open, you know.
It is really cool. I did not know how big it was. There are over 600 teens here, and it really is for teens, which surprised me because I've done like another like teen writers conference that it's like, oh, and there's quite a few, you know, parents here and things like that. But no, the parents kick them out to the curb, and just the teens are allowed in. That's cool.
And there's a lot of them running around, and the classes get out, the halls fill up.
Yes.
It's interesting.
I've had to find secret back alley entrances to several things here because just the number of kids, like you can't, and I'm too mean to, excuse me, coming through keynote, please move. You know,
just
I'm
kidding,
too nice.
George, get out of the way.
You know, I could
the
totally be like, totally, like Cruella de Vil or something.
That's
right.
A
big fur coat and just shove my way through.
Don't make me hurt your puppies.
Step on your feet.
That's right. So are you the one that would prepare for your keynote? Are you more of a procrastinator and did it last night before you came, or? No, nobody wants that. Nobody likes a procrastinator on their list.
Jen is walking by right now what she would like me to talk about for my keynote, and she said, whatever you want, and I said, don't do this to me. I can talk about chocolate for hours, and I can talk about small lapdogs and the history of the Maltese breed for hours, so don't tell me to talk about whatever I want at anything ever. But you just said it to me, I was like, oh man.
So we were only able to catch a little bit. We came up here to get things set up. We did see the video with you at your office, your kids in the background hacking and whacking at each other.
Yes, did you see what I was contrasting with? The Muppet movie, the original Muppet movie, and they go into, and it's Orson Welles playing this like high-powered Hollywood agent. They go in and say like, we would like to be rich and famous. And he sits there smoking a cigar, and then he nods and says to his secretary, prepare the standard rich and famous contract. I was talking about how that is, when I was a teen, what I thought it was like. I honestly thought that, because that's the way I thought of them, but I still do, but I thought of authors as being like rock stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, you have to have like Dobermans outside your house when you're an author, because all your fans are like climbing over the walls to get to you. And I am sure there are people that have that situation going on, like J.K. Rowling or Sanderson or something like that.
They have Maltese out there though.
They have little, I used to have one. They're vicious little animals. They know they're small, so they're all alphas.
Small dog syndrome, you know, they've got it.
Oh, they totally strut. Anyway, we're killing here. But, no, and so I contrasted that with like, I honestly thought that I would just like lay, you know, on a couch and dictate my books to my secretary, you know, stroking my Maltese and just eating bonbons, and the eating bonbons part is totally true. But the reality is, there I am trying to write a book, and my kids are fighting with lightsabers directly behind my chair, and I do, in fact, have a giant bucket of red vines, the giant Costco bucket of red vine licorice on my desk. and I try to pace myself and not eat it all at once. But I have to be munching, and you can ask tons of authors. Most authors have to be munching on something, or playing with a stress ball even, or something like that, while they write. And so I sit there and eat red vines, because if I don't, then I'll eat nothing but Cadbury dark mini eggs.
Understandable.
And then the kids come in and steal my candy. And
so how many buckets of red vines do you go through in one book?
I would say it's a book per bucket.
That's a good ratio.
A bucket per book. It's not too bad. I tried to keep it a little less, and they're fat free.
Yeah. So
I've tried other things, and that was bad.
So that's though, it's interesting, because with the kids in the background, that's what my house is all the time, and you never get peace. But and I picture, thinking of an author that they're locked in a dark room by himself, and they got the white screen glowing in their face.
Yes.
And that's not it.
That's what I thought. Well, that's what I thought it was like, and I thought it was like that all the time. And I thought maybe like once a year, or when you had a book come out, you came out once, and you went to like a reading and you read, and everyone's like, and there was like, tea and little sandwiches, and you signed a few books, and then you went back in your cave, right?
Yes.
And everyone left you alone. And I did not know that, like, especially because I write middle grade and young adults. As soon as I had a book published, I started having schools ask, like, will you come and do an assembly? And I'm like, you want me to stand in front of your entire school and talk about writing? Like, no, I need to go back in my cave. And so
keep going.
They really, and with, the Facebooks and Twitters and all the things, like, you're expected to be online, and like keep people updated about, like, now I'm doing the rough draft of my book and all this stuff, and you get 90,000 emails a day and all this stuff. So it's very hard to be in your cave, and then you add that 3 children. It's really horrible. It is. Sometimes I'm like, it is impossible to get anything done, and I am impressed with myself that I ever finished one book. Number 11 comes out in the summer, and I'm like, wow, go team. so
that leads to a good question then. So one book, you're right, you bring it out. How long ago was that?
I wrote, my first published book was written in 2005, came out in 2007. So
11 books later.
11 books since 2007.
So did you picture 11 books when you wrote the first one?
No. Well, I wanted to, I always wanted to be a writer, and I knew that I had a lot of books in me, but actually I did not think it would be that fast. I thought like every couple of years or something, but I've had 2 books a year in most years since I've been published. And like, I just signed another contract where I will basically have 2 books a year for the next 3 or 4 years as well, which is stupid and insane for me, but I did it anyway. And I'm going to buy stock in red vines. And I don't know. I was going to say like paper, but I just email everything, so it doesn't matter anymore. I used to, when I used to submit whole manuscripts, to publishers and stuff back in the day, when only like one weirdo publisher accepted email and stuff. Some of them wanted your whole manuscript, like 300 pages, and it would cost at least $12 to mail it. Yeah. I don't know how many reams of paper I use, and I feel so horrible and guilty now. And sometimes I'd send it all back, and I'd be like, well, they've marked it up, and they've obviously spilled coffee on it, so I can't reuse it, so shredder it is, But yeah, I never thought it would go this fast, and actually none of these books that I've had out were books that I envisioned writing before I got published.
And is it a challenge popping out 2 books in a year? I mean, I couldn't even imagine writing.
Well, and it's every book is different, because there have been some that like, oh, I wrote this book, I was so on fire with this idea, and here is this book, and it is done before time, and then the next book it'll be like, okay, I had only a vague idea for this book when I sold it to you, and it's coming very, very slowly, so it's kind of hit or miss. And I've had several series, and a couple of books in the series, it's just like, oh, I wrote that in a weekend, it was amazing, and just downloaded to my brain. And then the 3rd book in the series, like, where were they gonna go? So Silver in the Blood is a young adult book, and it is my first one that is set in the real world, and it is actually set in 19th century Romania, and I went to current day Romania. Okay. And I traveled around for 2 weeks with a private guide and took a tour. I had thought, oh, I'll just read a couple of books about Romania. I knew a little bit, but then I realized I knew diddly squat about Romania when I got into it. 19th century Romania was not like peasants, like superstitious and goat heads on people's doors type of thing. 19th century Romania was a place where people from France went on vacation. It was like the place to go. It was like, you know, Rococo architecture, but then also since it's right next to Turkey, there was like a lot of like Turkish and Asian influences and stuff. And so that Bucharest was called the other Paris at the time. And they had all these spas and restaurants and hotels. And so I decided to set it there. These girls who are from America and they're, you know, wealthy American society, you know, right before World War I, Age of Innocence type of thing. They go to Romania where their mothers are from for this, what they're expecting, this fabulous, luxurious vacation. Find out there's a terrible family secret that like changes their lives forever and stuff, and it's supernatural, of course. And but it was just so fascinating to go there because even today, Romania, the one hotel we stayed in Bucharest is a setting in my book because it's over 200 years old. And next to it was another hotel that was over 200 years old, just absolutely gorgeous. And on the other side, there was a smoking ruin from like a earthquake that everyone kept talking about. The earthquake, well, that building was damaged in the earthquake, well, that building was damaged in the earthquake, and we finally asked what was the earthquake. The earthquake was over 20 years ago. Wow. And it's just, it was such a different vibe there. Like, people had seriously just tacked up plastic, like clear plastic, over the walls of apartment buildings, and were just still living in them 20 years later, and you could see people through the plastic wall. And then right next to it, there would be like, and here is this gorgeous historic cathedral. Wow. You know, and here is this giant monument to Vlad the Impaler, the original Dracula, because he's their national hero and stuff like that. That was really interesting. So there's a lot of kitschy Dracula stuff everywhere, but it's like you're eating in a kitschy Dracula-themed restaurant where all the menu items like have weird, gross names like baby guts and stuff like that. And then the waitress is like, by the way, this was actually one of Vlad's residences. And you're like, so this building, and she's like, yes, it was built in the 10th century and it belonged to his grandfather and he was born in that room next door where we're getting your food ready. And you're like,
wow, okay.
Whoa! And like, you know, the waiter's wearing plastic vampire fangs as he tells you this. And you're just like, this is an interesting place. So I really had a lot of fun with this book. I mean, there's not like the Dracula thing going on, but the book takes place the year that Dracula was written. It was this huge phenomenon and stuff like that. So there's, of course, the guy running around with a copy saying, it's all real, and everyone thinks he's crazy. And there's no actual vampires in the book.
So why did you choose Romania?
I chose Romania because I saw a movie that was terrible. A terrible, terrible movie that I watched because it was based on a book, a wonderful, wonderful young adult book. And the young adult book was set in Virginia, and the movie was inexplicably set in Bucharest, Romania.
Oh, really?
I have no idea why. And I think the family, it's a werewolf book, and I think the family in the book was from Hungary, not Romania, but for whatever reason, the movie, instead of being set in Budapest, was set in Bucharest. And I was in beautiful scenery, it was filmed there, and I was watching this movie going, like, I was going to set a story in Bucharest. This is not the story I would tell. There is no reason for this to be set in Romania. They could be in Virginia, they could be anywhere, because it's not about anything to do with that. And so I was telling my friend, I'm like, I would love to set a book somewhere exotic like Romania that have like all this other stuff going on. And I was originally going to do a modern setting and have the book be mostly emails and texts between these two cousins that are very close, and was pitching it to my friend, and we had just both been reading the Lux series, which is a teen series which is set in late 19th century New York about these high society girls. Straight up, no supernatural, just like about, you know, it's like Gossip Girl, but, you know, with corsets and stuff. And she's like, you know, it'd be fun, you should like set that there, like take these like society girls with their fancy silk dresses and put them in Romania, because we were kind of assuming it would be like super backwards and stuff.
Yeah.
So then I read up on it, and I was like, dang!
That's what it is.
This is like, imagine you're being told you're going on this fabulous vacation, and you get there and they're like, haha, suckers, we're gonna rope you into the horrible family business. So.
Interesting. That's awesome. So this book comes out, did you say August?
July 7th Because it actually takes place in July, and there is like a reason why it has to take place in June and July and everything. So July 7th, Silver in the Blood.
Silver in the Blood, and that can be picked up everywhere?
Yes, oh yes. And I just signed, in fact, an hour ago, the deal for the audiobook and everything. So we'll have simultaneous audiobook, hardback.
Wonderful. And the same with all your other books, all be picked up still? And
yes, all of my books are in print. They're available just anywhere. Dragon Slippers, Tuesdays at the Castle, they're all everywhere.
Wonderful.
I'm famous.
You are. Jessica DeJork.
New York Times
get out of the
way.
way.
Yeah.
So, we appreciate you coming on Dungeon Crawler Radio. We appreciate being here, and thanks very much.
Thank you.